The Vatican police, they're the most highly trained fighting force in the world.
Better than Magnum Force?
The Vatican has their own police force, better than Magnum Force, yeah. Better equipment, better training. The Vatican police, trust me, look it up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Puffs with Peter podcast. Tonight, I'm joined by another masked man, and as you can see, his name is Brian, but he goes by another name that you probably know him by. With the masked man, the man in the iron mask, Brian, also known as Cathoholicism on Instagram and all his other socials, is joining us tonight on the Puffs with Peter podcast. I have to say thank you so much for coming on, man. You're a really big name in the space, and I'm just happy to have you on. Our loyal Peter Puffers are very excited, as you can probably imagine. So thank you for coming on the TradTards show.
Thank you for having me, Mr. TradTard, and I'm happy to speak to your Peter Puffers tonight. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that has seen a meme about Catholicism on Instagram has probably seen your profile picture, the Chad Sacred Heart of Jesus, Chad Jesus.
Yeah, right.
It's hard to miss. It's very bright.
Partially cursed. I don't know what else to do at this point. I've wanted to change it, but I feel like I'm too far in now.
Yeah. Now it's like a brand, it's stuck.
Yeah.
Right? So after a while, it just becomes what people think. They think Catholicism, they think that image.
Yeah.
So did you make that was OC that you made it? Did you find that, or what's the story?
Well, the Chad Jesus, I got to take this off. It's too top heavy.
Gotcha.
The Chad Jesus is it had been floating around. I didn't invent that. I just sequestered that basic image, and then I built onto it with the Sacred Heart and crown of thorns and stuff. I added to it a bit, but yeah, I'm a thief.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Yeah, it looks really good. And I mean, that's the thing, right? I think one of the things that sets you apart as a creator is the amount of OC and very obvious OC that you put out. That's something I always appreciate. There's obviously a lot of effort put into your posts and your images. As someone who likes to dabble in graphic design, I think you do a bang up job in your memes and in your content. So it's nice to see that quality stuff.
Yeah.
And I was curious if you've run into this too. I long form media is something I like doing as much as it's a labor of love. But does it ever get annoying when you work really hard on a piece of content, you put it out, and the response is just it's kind of whatever.
I blame it on the algorithm, really, because of course my post would do great every single time, but the algorithm really is a demon from hell. They don't even design it to prioritize the best content always. Sometimes it prioritizes very specific stuff, we want this amount of seconds in this video. We want it to click with this audience or whatever, or they'll prioritize new accounts. Ever since June, the election season, they totally put me under a rug for months, and I'm only just now coming back out of that. I think it was some kind of interference, because they expect me to talk about certain issues or policies or whatever. But and I heard similar reports from a bunch of different content creators from the Catholic sphere. So I don't know. A lot of effort went into a lot of posts over that period of time, and a lot of it just totally got, looked over by the algorithm or hidden. So, yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, the one thing that gets me is like, I'll, put out a podcast, whatever. Obviously, I have the link to my YouTube, but then on Instagram or wherever it may be, I will literally just take a video, slap a caption on it. It's very obviously like, it's just a piece of media I found and I put a funny caption to it. And then that will just go on forever and just enter the space and just blow up. And I feel so cheap because it's like I spent 30 seconds making this.
Right.
And this is
So,
what the algorithm has decided.
yeah, like I'll spend like a week doodling things, drawing stuff. I have a little bit of a background in art, and the stuff I post on Instagram is mostly just like doodles that I did digitally, and I'm not like a digital artist. I can't do it hardly. But there's been posts that I've put so much effort into, especially like the popes, like through the centuries. I've done like 5 centuries of popes now, and I've drawn like every single one of them and researched them and put in facts and everything. And it should be interesting to my super niche audience, but it won't get any views or whatever because it's like an info dump, and Instagram hates info dumps. And instead they'll prioritize like some clip I found of Shrek, like the Riz Shrek when that first came out. I grabbed that and I put like some caption on it about wooing the trad wife or something. And yeah, of course a bunch of single men sent it to their single men friends, but like it got like 17 million views or something. It took like 5 seconds of effort. Like as soon as the thought came to mind, I just put it out there and it exploded. So I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah, that's yeah, I'm just happy someone else has experienced this. And I mean, on your scale too, it's got to be crazy because I mean, like I'm looking at, your follower count and like, it just blows mine out of the water. And like I, just it boggles my mind. Like I see like a really great post, and then it's like the engagement is like, I don't know, it's crazy. Like it's really. I mean, you mentioned that it did change a little bit. I think there was some big changes at at the higher company with Meta that might have led to some of this resurgence, and it's been nice, but it's always very fickle.
I was just going to say, I think Donald put out an executive order of some kind about shadow banning. I don't know if anything ever came of that, but, I think there is I think they're being a little more friendly to the right wing in general. The tech boys are. And I don't know. They've also changed a couple of things where the people that pay for the verified stuff, they get like insider knowledge, and then those guys just like pass it on to us as cheapos, and then we take it and run with it. And I've been obedient to that new algorithm so far the past couple months, and stuff has like turned around 100%. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Donald's executive orders or if it's just like some new algorithm thing that I'm paying attention to now.
Good old Donnie T. Our God Emperor. Thank you so much for saving the Catholic influencer space.
Yeah, the Catholic meme pages. Thank you, Donald.
Yeah. Wow. Finally, a president that works for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that's been nice to see that there's a little less pressure on where we're posting our content. And going back to my question on how it is when we put a lot of effort into something and it doesn't go far, but then you take 5 seconds to make something and it explodes. Obviously, one thing that's been exploding just in the past 48 hours has been the new GPT 4.0 image generation, which allows people to take an existing image and have the AI work it into whatever variant or theme or filter they want. And so now we're seeing Studio Ghibli versions of every single image and every historical event on the planet. I was curious to have your take on it. I know you already made a post, I think, was it yesterday or today, that was a bunch of very famous Catholic images Ghiblified.
Right. It just had to be done.
So
somebody was
had
going
to
to
do
do
it.
it, and I figured I'd do it. And then today there was a couple more Catholic accounts that followed suit. But no, it's I hate AI. Honestly, I really do. I use it. It's fun. Uh, there's some like technical intrigue, and it really is mind-boggling what it's capable of doing. And I'm in IT, and my coworker and I, when it first started coming out with the image generations and everything, it looked awful. But when we saw it initially, we were like, "Wow, this is crazy!" And I just thought about like all the memes I could potentially make with it. And then once we started messing around with it, we were like, "Wow, this actually kind of sucks." But it grew rapidly. It's Pandora's box. It's totally out of control now. And I mean, I feel like a year from now or something, we're gonna be able to put these filters on movies, like on Netflix. There's gonna be subscriptions where you can like put some Ghibli filter on, like Avengers or something, and watch like a whole movie however you'd like to. And it's cursed, but at the same time, uh, little people like myself might be able to create some really cool stuff in the near future. It'd be nice to make some stuff because I don't know, the studios, they block anything Catholic. It's hard to crowdfund that kind of stuff, and artists are like extremely expensive. So I don't know, I'd like to do it naturally, but it's just going to become so readily available. It'd be hard to avoid doing it at all. Somebody's going to do it.
Yeah, that's the main anytime a new tool comes out, right? Like when it's new, there's going to be bumps in the road, but the main thing is the people that find ways to use it and maximize whatever it can do are going to be the ones to benefit in the short term, and then it's a mad scramble for everyone else to kind of get up to par. And yeah, it is interesting. It's fun to make memes with, and it is a little terrifying too. Because yeah, I remember as well when it would make something that just looked terrifying. It couldn't make people like worth a damn. Like it could make like objects, and that was about as good as it got.
Right.
And then yeah, eventually it learned that the human hand has 5 fingers. and then it's been crazy. But I think the limit is going to be, and as an IT guy, you're probably more versed in this than myself, is just the amount of computing power, right? That's going to take to really generate in a quick amount of time, especially if you're going to get to the point where you could take a whole movie and then put it through a filter. I mean, but granted, chips keep getting better every year, so who knows, right? So I guess we got to hope that Taiwan doesn't get invaded anytime soon, so we can keep our AI slop.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, if we got like some kind of superconductor or something like that, I don't know if there would be any kind of limit to the computing power. And then you have Microsoft that just like released some sort of quantum chip or something. And I don't know, that stuff's really freaky. Quantum computing is freaky, bizarro land. I think all computer stuff is. Even as an IT guy, like I was working on a laptop the other day, and I had it all opened up, and it's not the first time I've ever had a thought, but it's just I can't comprehend anybody coming up with this stuff. I feel like it's that meme. I don't know if you've ever seen that schizo meme where it's talking about like the sigils of Solomon or whatever, the bindings where there's all these like magical rocks and things, and together with that and the magic, they're able to like control demons and stuff. And it's very bizarre. I don't necessarily buy into that, but I'm halfway there, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think I've read and like seen people talk before, like at a certain level, like even if you understand the hardware of tech these days, at a certain level, like it really is almost like magic, right? Like it'd be really difficult to, I mean, like just like everyone can assemble a computer, but there's only a few people that are able to like create an OS from scratch, right? Like not everyone is like Terry Davis running around out here, building an OS, like from the ground up. Like we've reached a point with like tech literacy where we're really far past, like I, I'm at a loss for words as to how I'm trying to like formulate this. Like we've gotten so far past like the most basic part of like the baseline for, okay, we have you have a personal computer, and it used to be people would work on their own PC, write their own programs, and now it's like you have Gen Alpha kids that are supposedly tech literate, but they don't really like understand anything outside of like a very basic user interface, like a very surface level understanding.
Mhm.
And then we're building systems off of that, to the point where like if you really try, I mean, like obviously there's people that are still in IT, but it feels like there's a general lack of actual understanding from like a base level up about how these systems work. Right. I don't know if like this is something you've experienced, and I don't intend for our discussion to just be IT focused all night, but it is very interesting.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I wrote a fictional, like a fiction dystopian fiction novel, and there's a lot of AI and stuff in it. And I released it like right around when COVID hit, and it's just been kind of crazy to see all this stuff that's like in the book unfold. And nothing truly visionary on my part, but it is still kind of I don't know, uncanny, I guess.
Yeah. Tell me more about that. I wasn't aware of this. What's the name? I'd love for my viewers to go and check it out.
Yeah, so I've written a couple of books. I'm writing another one right now, but the first one I wrote was a dystopian fiction set in like the year 2064, and there's been like this global pandemic that like wiped out a large percentage of people, and there's like conspiracies that this pandemic sort of caused a s- like a mass sterilization of the human race.
Uh-huh.
But there's conspiracies that the AI just poisons the population in a way that controls it. But then eventually people start having children like miraculously again. And so it's about the regime, the technocracy cracking down on these people who are just having a normal human experience by having children and stuff, because it wants to control that stuff. There's like lab grown fetuses and things to replace that. And really the underlying message was to people who are abortionist or pro choice, is that if you sign away like this natural human right, if you say that like babies aren't actually babies, but they're just like this little nothing, like nothing burger of cells, then the government can say that. If you say it so often, then the government's gonna be like, well, you got like nobody thinks these are babies, so it doesn't matter if we terminate your pregnancy or not. And I feel like we're handing over a bunch of control to the government in a very unethical way to be manipulated. But my other book is totally different. It's like a vigilante murder mystery kind of thing, where a guy hunts down like pedophile priests, basically.
Okay, that's incredibly based.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun to write. It was a lot easier, a lot simpler. There's only a few characters, and yeah, that one's called The Shriving Place. And the first one I mentioned, that's stork sowing season. And I'm supposed to write a part 2 to it, but I've been like super busy that I haven't gotten around to it just yet.
Oh no, that's all good. I mean, I've been, as my viewers are well aware, it's been quite some time since I put out some actual real content. Life gets in the way, and I think it's completely normal to prioritize life over as much as fun content creation can be. But these books, are they available? Did you do self publish through Amazon, or did you find like a contemporary, like a conventional publisher, I should say?
No, everybody rejected me, so I just self-published through Amazon.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's plenty of really good books that people have self-published. So you said it was Stork sowing season. So that's the first of what you want to make a multiple part series, or maybe at the very least a 2-part. You said.
Yeah, probably. I have thought about wrapping it up in the second part, but yeah, it's definitely a series. It's not finished yet, but the first part is out there.
Nice. And then you said the Shriving Place for the second one, the vigilante.
Yeah, and
book.
it's a novella. People can read it like in a few hours if they wanted to.
I would actually say that writing short fiction like that is more difficult. Because it can be really hard to. I've tried doing like short stories before. I sent one in for a writing comp, and it didn't win anything, but it did get in the collection. But I remember how hard it was, and this was only for like a few thousand words, and it was so difficult. I kept thinking like, no, it's not how I want it to end. It didn't feel right. I don't know. Was that something you experienced? When you were writing something a little more shorter form?
Well, short stories are pretty difficult. I've tried my hand at that a little bit, and it's hard to fit things in such a small space. But with the Shriving Place and novella, uh, I don't know. It just kind of flowed out of me. It was really easy to find a happy place with it. I kind of had an idea of how I wanted to go with the story. Um, it sort of just all popped in my head, and I just like wrote it in a couple of weeks, and then I edited it myself. So it wasn't too bad. It was sort of I don't know. It was just an awesome experience with that book. I really love it. Stork was a lot more difficult for me.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Right? What was that your first time like really trying your hands at writing fiction, or
No,
is it something you'd already kind of done?
no, I actually wrote another pro-life dystopian sort of novel before Stork, and I trash canned it after like 65,000 words or something.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, I can't do anything with this, and the premise of it was that women universally turned away from reproducing because of contraception and liberation and whatnot. So the men just magically started having children instead. And it was sort of like just an absurdist satire. And I was like, this is like, because the tone was bad. It was like, it's too serious. There's too much serious stuff going on for it to be like ridiculously like humorous or whatever. So I was like, this has failed. So I just trash canned it.
You see, I'm disappointed because you could have had a very easy cover. You could have just put the pregnant man emoji on for the cover art and called it a day.
That didn't exist back when I wrote that.
Oh, wow.
That's very recent stuff. I probably wrote that book like in, I don't know, like 2015 or something like that. 2016.
Are you sure you're not like clairvoyant?
I think I won't take any credit for it. It'd be cool to credit God for it, but I feel like that's like even more arrogant. I think art in general is just sort of a kind of clairvoyance, and like any sort of art, like I don't want to be too esoteric or like new agey, but like the government, like the agencies have done studies on hive mind and stuff like that, and I think art ties into that part of the human psyche in some way. I think it's interconnected with a lot of people all over the place. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, there's I mean it's incredible how many philosophers have main like very well known philosophers, especially in the West, have written entire books on, aesthetic theory, how like the purpose of art, how art is to be consumed and viewed. I always prefer. I think Tolstoy said like if you're trying to get across like an emotion, like art has to communicate something. And that's I bet there's probably people that are much more well read on Tolstoy's philosophy. But that was his like view at it, and I always thought that was a better take on how art should be. And I was curious, so like you wrote these books, and you still do. Like what what other works, what other writers, from a prose or a content standpoint, have influenced you in writing these works? I'm very curious to hear some of your influences.
Um, with Stork, I'm not really sure, honestly. I think it kind of I drew it up from my younger adulthood, like in high school and stuff, when I was reading Jules Verne and H.G. Wells and sort of Victorian sci-fi. Stork's not steampunk whatsoever or anything like that. But I feel like a lot of my writing sort of was inspired by that. With Striving Place, I had been reading a whole lot of Hemingway, so uh,
Gotcha.
that changed my prose a bit, I think. And I like Hemingway a lot because his dialogue and everything is just so much more realistic, and it's still very there's still a lot of time for exposition and stuff through that dialogue, even though it's very bare bones.
Yeah, Hemingway. Yeah, obviously Hemingway is known for not necessarily brevity, but it is like a very like to the point, less frills description, and it's amazing how well he's still able to flesh out a scene, even with that caveat. Uh, I like it's always interesting too. I mean, obviously Hemingway. Um, I don't know if you've like felt the same way about Hemingway, in the same way I feel about Orwell. These are both guys that weren't extremely conservative or even traditional,
Right.
but I love their prose. Hemingway is very uh, very well known, and
I
I'm a huge fan of Orwell's prose as well.
I really I love the work of degenerates. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Um, some of the greatest art and writing and music and all of it all comes from degenerates. And I don't know if that has to do with the sort of like spirits that influence us or what, but it's really good stuff. As far as enjoyability is concerned, it's good stuff. It might be treacherous for the soul, but I still like it. Like Oscar Oscar Wilde, or how do you say it?
Yeah. Oscar Wilde.
Yeah, so like he was a total degenerate, but like the Picture of Dorian Gray is a pretty cool book, and he had like extreme unction on his deathbed, like as he was dying. Apparently, like some priest, like a Catholic priest, baptized him and did all that stuff. So there's a chance the guy's in heaven, which is pretty interesting. And then Hemingway, he it's a little more trickier of a situation for his salvation, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I still have hope for him. He's just he's such a good author that I've even prayed for his soul at times. But they're all good. Not everybody can be like a Johnny Sue as J.R. Tolkien is concerned. He's the only perfect man.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, and everyone, of course, there's a huge following of Lewis as well, right? It's interesting. So you mentioned, Wilde receiving extreme unction. If I recall correctly, James Joyce. Granted, I have not read any of his work. I've never read Ulysses. I've never read Finnegan's Wake. I'm not Hibernian, so it's not part of my cultural heritage. But I probably should, just as an English speaking person. But he apparently was a huge fan. He like lived, if I remember correctly, this is like just me wasting time at work on Wikipedia. I think if I recall correctly, he was a fan of going to like Eastern liturgy when he like lived in Switzerland, because he said it just like felt like he just liked the tradition of it, even though it wasn't his background at all. It's just very interesting reading how people interacted with faith in what was probably the most tumultuous time in the human history, which was the 20th century. It was just very odd to kind of like see that, I guess, in a similar vein to Wilde receiving extreme unction on his deathbed.
Yeah, and a similar thing kind of happened with Mozart, because he died composing the Requiem, and I don't know. I think God, being the creator, has like a special grace for humans that create things. I think he really enjoys a lot of the stuff they make, even though sometimes it's not perfect. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think Faulkner. I don't, have you read any Faulkner? Now he has some really wild prose. I don't know if you're aware of his work.
Not extensively. I've just probably some stuff in school.
Yeah, if you ever want to read his stuff, I would not suggest starting with something like The Sound and the Fury, because it's like just completely discombobulating. But he always said, like, just write what you know, and I think other authors have said that too. And unfortunately, with a lot of what you said, these artist types being a little bit on the edge, definitely outside the bounds of at least our morality, right? It would make sense that would be reflected in their art. But I think that's also too what leads them to being interesting creators, right? There's a bit of tension there, and also too, a lot of what artists write about is like the internal conflicts when people are doing things they know are wrong, but they feel compelled to do it anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think nobody likes Pure Flakes and stuff like that. It's garbage. Nobody likes Hallmark. It's all awful. It's repulsive. It's like emotional ad nauseum. It's just no good. But the good stories are very gritty and bloody, and sometimes a little racy. The Bible. People think the Bible is like this like polished, you know, PG book, but it's not at all. If you read it, it's like an HBO series. You've got the Song of Solomon. You have all this genocide and slaying and destroying people utterly. It's really a crazy collection of books, and I mean that with all reverence possible. But that I think that's one thing that really speaks to people in Scripture. It's just it's raw humanity that's like portrayed in it.
Oh yeah, exactly. The human condition is portrayed very well in the Bible. All of the good and all of the bad that comes with it, and obviously the need for there to be, a healing to our wounded nature, right? As part of God's plan and the culmination of the Gospels. I mean, it's like you said with the Hallmark films, right? There needs to any good story has to have conflict. There needs to be, there needs to be a source of friction, and that's what makes any story worth listening to, is either overcoming that, falling to that, and then it's more of a warning, right? If not the most optimistic thing to view, but there needs to be a point to it, and when there's no stakes, then there is no point.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, there's that clip of Tolkien who's like, he says like, oh yeah, like death is what makes like humans tell stories, or something to that effect. So there's a great clip where someone asks him, and he says, well, it's just the fact that we only have so much time, just
Yeah,
human
and
mortality.
Stories, practically always a human story, is practically always about one thing, aren't they? Death. The inevitability of death.
I think it's Hemingway, where he says there's nothing to writing, you just sit at a typewriter and bleed. And I think some of my darkest moments in life, death and loss and all that stuff, has really inspired some of my best work here and there. I don't know. I don't know what art would be in a perfect world. I guess we'll find out, hopefully, but it's definitely maybe you know, I guess it is the imperfect world that makes the art so so enjoyed, so relatable. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, there won't really be any need for like any form of the aesthetic if we're already, if you're, enjoying the beatific vision, then you're fulfilled even on that human front, right? To enjoy beauty. So I'd imagine it would be moot.
I don't know. I mean, we, this world sucks and it's so nasty and everything. What motivates us to create art is to capture that. So I feel like the same thing will happen with the perfect heavenly realm. You would just have a different motivation behind it, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's very interesting to speculate on. I mean, I don't going back to the I guess the ideas of aesthetics theory. It's interesting how you mentioned how like, government plays a role, or I hope I'm not misquoting. You mentioned earlier like, how the government definitely uh tries to kind of keep its fingers at least if not on the pulse or of art, like they're definitely in there influencing because they
Well,
understand the power it has.
yeah, what I was saying earlier is that the CIA, there's been like disclosures of documents where they talk about the hive mind, like specifically like the collective human consciousness and stuff like that. And what's crazy about reading some of those documents is that, the title of it sounds super new agey, but once you like get into the words and the diction they use, the jargon, it's like pseudo Catholic. There's a lot of like, it's like they're trying to recreate the communion of saints and like the church, the levels of the church with like a more materialistic, sort of like atheistic uh perspective on it. It's really strange.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a common reprise I think now, where pretty much what the powers that be would want is a religion just without God, right? And where does that point of worship come to? Well, either our own fallen human humanity, or us an oppressive or total state, as it were, in replacing that. So, and I've also it's interesting too. You mentioned the CIA with the I haven't seen that exactly in regards to the hive mind, but it is I do know the CIA did fund they were funding a lot of art during the Cold War as a response to the Soviets as part of like an information campaign. Like there
Yeah,
was like
I mean
actively yeah.
they've done all kinds of stuff, and they've weaponized art. I think I forget where I saw this, but one of the campaigns they had was to inject anime into the black community, the Black American community, to try
Wait,
to.
well, okay. Well, you got to go into this. This is my first time hearing this. So wait, you're telling me that like
It's a psyop, man. It's a psyop.
so
They
you're
they
telling me like the fact that I like the black kids in high school that were really big into Naruto, you're telling me that that was a government op.
Yeah, that was an op.
The more you know. I just thought that maybe they turned on, what was it, WB TV, and
No,
really like
man. That's
Naruto.
that's that's why they they are very they 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 do really enjoy cartoons, just like culturally, that it's something that's a lot more present like in their
Yeah.
homes than you'd see like Saturday morning cartoons and stuff. I don't know what that's about necessarily, but back to anime. I hate anime personally. I really do, and a lot of people, they hate me for that, but I think there's
This
something
is getting
wrong with it.
spicy.
I think there's
It is
something wrong with
interesting.
it because Japan gets nuked twice, and the first thing they do is like put out this like degenerate cartoon stuff, and it's effeminize their culture. They don't procreate anymore. There's like all sorts of things, and there's probably other reasons for that. But I think anime's of Satan, honestly.
Yeah, I think I think it can definitely be overrated, right? I wouldn't go so far maybe to say it's of Satan, and that I think some of my viewers might be surprised to hear that. And I don't have like a soft spot for anime.
Oh, I'm just
But
trying to piss everybody off.
yeah, no, I like it a lot. That's kind of what TradTards is always supposed to be. So no, that's very on character. I do think it's interesting going back to the the nuclear bombings of Japan, how like Hiroshima gets hit, and also Nagasaki, and these are like two cities in Japan that historically had a like very large Catholic population, and they just happened to be the ones to get hit. Like either that's it's horrible.
Yeah,
Um,
I've made some memes about it, and Nagasaki, I think, is like a historically Catholic epicenter. And there were like some commenters under the memes that were putting in overtime to be apologists for the satanic U.S. government, and they were like, "No, man, Truman didn't want those cities. He was wanting the other cities, but the weather was bad. There was too much fog, so they had to like bomb a different city. It just so happened to be like the Catholic city that could have saved Japan."
well, even Hiroshima, I think there was a big Jesuit presence in Hiroshima. I had to read the book, about that, and it's just crazy, man. Like how I mean, these were like for the most part a civilian target. There was some obviously industrial infrastructure, but it was I mean, just imagine getting hit with something like that you have no concept of. Like people, unless you were like literally like a physics student, you probably had no concept of like a nuclear bomb.
No, and like the closest we ever got to it in my lifetime was a conspiracy. Like people were talking about the drones in Jersey sniffing for a dirty bomb, and that had
I
me.
always knew that shit. I always knew that was bullshit. Like there was
Yeah, but
no.
that had me so spooked. I was thinking about it. I was going to confession because of it. I was like, if this thing's real, which is not medieval grind set, but if this thing's real, I gotta be right with the Lord. I gotta stop sinning. But no, like just thinking about the possibility of something like that happening was crazy.
Well,
And
it's interesting. Like a nuke. I mean, obviously, if you're getting hit with the radiation, that would like totally suck. But you're getting like hit up in the fireball or like the initial shockwave, like you're just gonna die. I mean, it's not even gonna be that painful. But it
yeah,
would be
well,
like, yeah,
I'm not in the Jersey area at all, so like it wouldn't have been the fireball. It would have been like the raining acid or something, the ash clouds that would have killed me.
all right. I wanted to ask you this, and this discussion friggin' completely zapped this back into my head. Have you read a Canticle for Leibowitz?
No, I haven't. Sounds
Oh
very
my
familiar.
goodness gracious, you got to read this book immediately. It is like literally the best piece of Catholic, obviously outside of the Bible and anything the church has put out, might be the best piece of Catholic media ever. Like
Who,
ever.
who's it by?
Well, here I just went out on a crazy limb and was like, "This is the greatest thing ever," and I can't even recall. Hold on. He has a very like just white bread kind of name. No offense to the author. Oh, hold on. It was Walter M. Miller Jr. As you can see,
Okay.
it's not a very. It's not like J.R.R.
Yeah,
Tolkien, right?
I'll forget that
But
if I don't write it down. I've heard of
this
the
book
title. Yeah.
is freaking amazing. This book influenced the Fallout series in a big way. Like
Huh.
I'm not like a huge way actually. The Brotherhood of Steel is based on a huge part of this book, and I cannot. It was actually in the first episode of the podcast. I was pretty much glazing the hell out of this book. You got to read it. It's so good. I think you'll really, really enjoy it just from what you told me about your experiences just with literature. It's an amazing book. It has actually some really good pro-life messages in it. It talks a lot about some really timeless like debates over, the role of technology and the ethics that go into technology. Obviously, it's written like a lot of great science fiction was in the shadow of the Cold War and the nuclear threat. So that obviously plays a big part in it. It is a post-apocalyptic book, but it's not just a post-apocalyptic book. It's incredible. So yeah, I'll rest my case there. I don't want to just talk about it.
I'll look back into it. I remember hearing the title before, sometime over the past few years, but I'll look it up.
You will love it. I'd love to like go at length and talk about it, but obviously we don't have all the time in the world. But it's really good. To anyone listening, pick it up. You will not regret it, especially if you're a Catholic. You'll really enjoy it. If you're not a Catholic, you still will, because it's a damn good book. So yeah, can't recommend it enough. One thing I've always wanted to ask, what do you think? Do you think aliens exist?
I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't think so. At least like intelligent spacefaring, like abduction aliens. I don't think they exist. And if they do exist, I think they might be like
Demons.
Well, there could be demons, right? But like if we're talking about specific like aliens, I think there might be races of creatures that haven't fallen like we have or something, or maybe they have like a different purpose altogether. But I mean, I wouldn't like personally put some sort of boundary on what God has or hasn't done. Like there's probably all sorts of mysteries out there. But I don't know. There's a lot of talk about aliens lately, and a lot of the documents, like I said about the hive mind stuff, they're worded in a very bizarre, like crypto Catholic way. Like the Immaculate Constellation Task Force or whatever, the whole documentation behind that has a lot of like weird Catholic jargon, and like it talks about grace and Immaculate Constellation. It talks about like this or it doesn't talk about the constellation, but a lot of people compare it to like the constellation of Virgo, and there being like 13 or 12 stars or whatever.
Yeah,
and then
like Revelation imagery.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. It's definitely something that might make you a little puzzled, to say the least. But
You have to
know.
send me the link to these, because this sounds really intriguing.
Yeah, I've got some stuff, and I think I've made some stuff in the past. But yeah, I'll show you. I'll send it over. But it's very maybe you could put it in the clip for people or whatever. But it's
Definitely.
I don't know. I don't really think I believe in them. I feel like if they existed, we'd be like owned by them already. Like if there was a advanced alien race, I don't think they'd be, space hippies or whatever. I think they'd be like the Roman Empire, and we'd be.
But you don't believe in the Star Trek, like the Federation, and they they have those rules, like you can't interact if they're not like a level 3.
No, man. If the materialistic alien atheist world is like at all accurate, we are in a universe that has limited resources, and if anything, creatures, they become advanced by combat. Like that's like the quickest way to develop new technologies, to try to kill each other. And I don't think aliens would have like discovered that amazing technology without like slaying trillions of creatures.
I always thought, I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan at all. I like listening to him because I can turn my brain off when he's not talking about politics, and it's very relaxing. But whenever he would talk about aliens, which is obviously a big pet topic of his, he'd always be like, with the drones, he'd always immediately like try to be like, what are the odds this is extraterrestrial? And I always wondered, like, you're telling me that supposedly intelligent life, which originates from outside our solar system, so according to what we know about physics, they have mastered that. They cannot master the ability to keep themselves hidden. And then, if we're to believe some of these reports, they get out and walk around. Some of them get killed and captured by the government, and they crash their ships. Like they're are these like a few aliens that just like they just down a 6-pack and then they crash their saucer like on Earth?
I think
I
I think it's definitely all bogus. It's all like sort of like misinformation campaigns or whatever. But the most compelling thing, in my opinion, is that the aliens are not like biological creatures such as we are. They're more like drones of sorts. Like even the perceivable individuals or like androids or something. So I think that's probably the most plausible thing, but even that is like insane. If there's any sort of aliens that do exist, though, I hope it's the Nordics, because they're the coolest for sure.
Yeah, dude, I won't take me on your ship. I want to go to Hyperborea, and
Yeah,
it'll be fun. Like,
yeah,
just see a dude like is like, oh, like I thought he was Swedish. Turns out he's an alien. It just happens every other Tuesday, I guess.
yeah.
No, but I'm happy you wanted to discuss it. I know some people in our space like that really just don't want to talk about that, or they think it shakes their faith. I'm like, man, we've had no actual evidence that we're not the only planet that has life. And I mean, if anything, the whole Fermi paradox or whatever, it almost seems like more affirming that we really are like made in God's image. Not to
Yeah,
sound
no,
like
I
a
think
human supremacist, but
I agree. I mean, I've listened to so many people talk about this subject, like even hellbound atheists, secular scientists talk about it, and a lot of them they think it's such a small chance, even in like the vast expanse of space. Like it's just they're like, yeah, this is a freak miracle thing that humanity is here, especially like this early in the life cycle of the universe or whatever. It's like a freak thing. So I don't think they exist. I really don't. But I'm not, I'm not totally turned off from it. Maybe.
well, as Elon Musk says, if they do exist, they're very subtle.
Yeah.
Very subtle.
Yeah. He's nuts, man. He's so weird to me.
Dude, what? I mean, I don't have a special enmity towards him. I know it's the big popular thing on the left to just like think he's the next Hitler. I don't think he's the next Hitler. I do think he can be a little cringe. I do think it's weird when people are like super jumping up and down for him too.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I think he's just like extremely autistic.
yeah, that's that's the thing though. There's so many of those in our space. Like, I guess I shouldn't like really have any extra enmity towards him for that.
No, I think I don't know. I feel like the only thing that he's done that I can't stand, that I'm totally disgusted by, is the whole seeding humanity thing. And I don't know, that's just such a gross thought to me.
Yeah, he's very weird. His personal life is very odd. And also too, like, I mean, we could say this about like any big figure that's like conservative these days. Like, imagine if they were like hardcore Catholic. Like, imagine that level of autism. Like, someone's got to get in his circle. We got to get one of our guys there. Like, take this dude to a Latin mass.
There would be it'd be pretty insane. I mean, you'd have like a very public Michael Jones or something, and it would go so crazy really fast. It'd be like Kanye on Twitter, like within weeks.
I feel like if Kanye just like took some meds, I feel like there was a short window where he could have been very easily pivoted towards Catholicism. Like, there was a window there, and it was lost.
I think I don't think it's totally lost. So I'm sure there's still some salvation left for Kanye, but I don't know. I feel like he's got just these like grabby little lizard people or something behind him that's like, making him more of a degenerate, or spurring him on in some kind of way that suits the optics from their end. But I don't know. I think he needs some serious help for sure.
Definitely. Well, that's like the whole thing about tortured artists, right? I mean, they produce incredible work. I saw like a meme where it was just some headline. They're like, "Yeah, Kanye's still a Nazi, but his new album's actually really good." and it was like some mainstream like music journal or something.
What, with the newest album or a previous
Yeah,
one?
he like dropped one like very recent apparently, and
Was
they're
it
like,
was it
yeah,
the swastika one?
it might have been, yeah.
I
They're
didn't know
like,
that came out yet.
yeah, I don't follow hip hop, but yeah, apparently it did, and unless it was like just some bullshit, it looked real enough. It was like, yeah, Kanye's new album came out, and unfortunately, it's really good.
I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're getting a little closer to our time, but it's up, to you how much you want to talk more. Was there any topics you want to kind of, explore into? It's as long as you want to talk.
I was just along for the ride. I
Yeah,
don't
and
mind.
this is flowed real easy. This is I don't know if you saw, I had I think it was episode 10, was the three women versus one rad
Yeah,
trad.
I briefly listened to a bit of it. Yeah.
And also, I'll couch this. My fiance was one of the guests, and I love her to death. But
Oh,
I
that
will
was
say,
Miss TradTard.
yep, Miss Tradtard. I will say this as a whole, right? So I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular. As a whole, that episode was so hard to film. Like it, it's hard. It was hard to film. It took a long time. There's so many times when the conversation died, fizzled out, and I had to do a lot of editing to make that enjoyable. So I'm happy that people engaged with it. I don't know if they liked it. Uh,
Well,
the
feel free
thumbnail.
to edit this and like as much as you want. If I sound like an idiot or whatever, I don't mind.
Oh
I'm
no,
all-
this is gonna be a very easy episode to do because we didn't go off on too many tangents.
just a couple.
No, and they're all very, very good. I mean, yeah, it's we're in a very interesting space. I think the Catholic creator space is a very unique one. And I love how a lot of us like butt heads a lot, but we never really like. There's not a lot of real beef that I've found.
No, not really. When I first got involved, I beefed a little, and there's been some butting of heads here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty cool because everybody's got like this. For the most part, there's probably some sellouts, but uh, predominantly everybody has like this shared goal to serve God in some kind of way. So I think it really works, and I think there's something mystical behind all of it as well. I think I've experienced a lot of weird things where people end up working together, or there's conversions that happen. It's very fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, and it's we're an interesting cast of characters, and I like that they're people can have disagreements on certain things, but at the end of the day, can still have good conversations. You constantly see like people even if they're just like ribbing each other a little bit, like in the comment sections, people are always sharing each other's stuff and engaging with each other, and it's always, I think, for the most part, a pretty forgiving and a pretty tight knit community.
It's hard to pray the Pater Noster or the Our Father without forgiving people, a little bit. You're kind of doing it wrong if you don't. So I think that, and just the fact that we all sort of understand that we all go to the same mass, like this mystical feast. I don't know. I think it's like the most unitive thing in the world. And then you have like the memes about, the like the white girl Wojak. She's like, I'm not a racist. And it's like all of her friends are just white girls that look just like her. And then you have like the racist Chad Wojak, and all of his friends are like wearing samurai gear and dressed like
Yeah, every race under the sun.
all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a lot like that for sure.
Yeah, because it's like, oh yeah, we're all different, but we have a very core thing that we do agree on,
Mhm.
which makes it really hard to really have real beef. I think actually one of the people that I'm gonna have on as a guest, optimistic doomer memes.
Yeah, yeah,
The
he's great.
Yeah,
I met him. I
yeah,
know he's a
and
good guy.
I'm pretty good friends with him IRL, so we can talk offline about that a
Okay.
little bit. Yeah, And that's yeah, the one time I did meet you IRL was I think mainly. So yeah, wait, actually, you know what? This would be a great way to end the episode. Talk a little bit about CatholicPalooza
All
and
right.
the upcoming one. I
So
don't know. It's in New Jersey, so I don't know if I'm going, but yeah, please talk about it a little bit.
it's going to be in Rutherford this year in August 16th. I'm actually not just promoting it this year, but I'm the art director. And I'm also shielding for it to sponsors and stuff, and I'm creating pitch decks and things like that. I'm really excited about it, having more of a part, but it's really grown. Well, it's only been a couple years, but the first one was a pretty good success. The second one was, it surprised me. I thought maybe the interest would fizzle out or something, but it did really well. And I think we're just going to keep going with it until we destroy all of our enemies. I'm really excited about it. Uh, this year we might have other acts, like not just music, but we might have some humor involved and things like that from some people. I'm still waiting to hear back, so I can't name drop anybody. And we
Wow.
haven't
Well, I am
announced
looking forward to Shane
anything.
Gillis doing a stand-up routine at CatholicPalooza
Man,
3.
I
He is
wish
Catholic.
that maybe one day. I haven't given up on Shane yet. We'll get a hold of him, but I don't know. I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be it's gonna be some of the same stuff, but a lot more expanding this year, I think.
So you said August 15th. Is that a
16th.
Friday or Saturday? Oh, 16th.
It's
Sorry.
a Saturday. August 15th is one of the Marian feast. I forget. I think it's her Assumption or something. I forget.
Yep. Yeah, the Assumption. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the day after that, and we'll have like a little mass beforehand, and then we'll have parties and music. It's really good. It's also like, I'm not even like a huge music person, to be honest. I A lot of people think that's weird. The only time I ever listen to music is if I'm drawing, but even then, a lot of times it's just like instrumental stuff, because I don't like the lyrics to sort of like take control of my thought process when I'm creatively involved. Like when I'm writing with Striving Place, I listen to a bunch of Russian Orthodox liturgy, which sound like the chants
Based.
and stuff. That sounds so autistic and hyper fixated, but
No,
like,
dude,
just
the CK2 Orthodox chant like soundtrack was on
yeah.
like another level. That stuff was insane, like insanely good. No, I completely agree on that.
Yeah, I love it. I was able to get lost in it, and it still stirs up a lot of like creative juices. There's just something very mystical about it. Um, but as I was saying, like, I'm not like a huge music person. Like, I could survive without music, and a lot of people think that's bizarre, but I know there's other people like me out there. And if you're somewhat intrigued by Catholic Palooza, but you're not necessarily a music person, you don't even really have to be there for the music. It's great fellowship. You smoke cigars with all these buds that you've made online, all these friends and things, and it's really a cool festival. There's a lot of stuff to offer. It's like vendors and just hanging out with people in general. I really like it.
I'm excited. I'm happy to hear it's in August. So my chances of going just went up a ton. The
Good.
one that the inaugural here in Virginia. So now, granted, I don't just give out where I live, but my viewers and listeners do know that I live in the greatest state in the United States of America, that being the Old Dominion, good old Virginia. But
I like Virginia. I like it.
I love this state, man. Lived here pretty much my whole life. But yeah, it was in Richmond. Great town to put in. It's smack dab middle of the state. And I wasn't able to go, but as my guest on, I believe was it the second or third episode of the podcast that we talked about it, and that was the one that you had seen. Yeah, he said it was a really great time, and it seemed like a really unique event because people usually think of like Catholic events, and it's like, okay, you're usually going to like a Dawson Youth Conference or something like that, or like a Steubenville conference. This seemed like, okay, like this is like young people and they're Catholic and there's music and it's Catholic, but at the end of the day, like it's okay, the fact that you're Catholic it's not necessarily an afterthought, but that's out of the way. And now you can have some real deep fellowship, and
Yeah.
it seemed like a really cool like third space that was being made for Catholic young adults
And
and also Catholic youth.
And I'll just add, this is an event that's done by people that are very culturally literate. They're not like some Jesuits that are just sitting in some office somewhere. This is like people that are engaged with social media and everything, and we understand pretty well what people like, what they dislike, and so this event is greatly catered to like a forgotten about demographic, the sort of the imperfect Catholic out there, I would say.
Yeah, the people that live in the real world and have a life and are, they're going at it. They're doing all they can to make it. And I think it's really good that there is a space for that. And I'm pretty excited to hear. And so, is this in the same venue that it was for the second one? Because I understand the second one was also in New Jersey. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
sweet. So Rutherford.
Yeah, Rutherford. It's just north of Newark. Actually, I didn't mind Jersey. There's a lot of bad memes about it, but I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, which is a true hellhole. So,
oh goodness gracious.
I just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a shithole! Do you know what I mean? Birmingham is a fucking shithole! I hate the fucking place!
I visited Jersey. It wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. And, I've got a little bit of Sicilian heritage on my mother's side. So I got to meet like a whole Sicilian Italian community. And it was really, really neat.
Yeah, bro, you went home.
Yeah. Yeah, I came back and my Guido percentages had risen like 75% and I was gelling my hair. Just kidding.
The whole cast of The Sopranos came out to support y'all.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds really. I mean, if it's only getting bigger, I can only imagine. Because I understand, the inaugural, it's always so crucial that it goes well, right, for any event. And it went well. And if you already have a venue locked down and you've done it there before, I can only imagine it's going to be even greater this year. So August 16th, 2025, Anno Domini, be there, Rutherford, New Jersey. To all of you Peter Puffers out there, if you're not there, you're probably Protestant. If you are Protestant, you're more than welcome, I imagine. But you gotta say Christ is King. You gotta go to Mass. You gotta do it. Someone had to do it. Someone had to have the CatholicPalooza. It's happening, and I understand that JD Vance is going to be there as the keynote speaker. If my info is correct.
I don't know about that, but I'll try. I have him written down on my list actually.
Dude, I mean, you never know. Seriously, shoot your shot. You never know.
These guys. One thing. I mean, this administration. I've definitely got some complaints, but they're more engaged with like the culture than anybody's ever been, and I think I have a shot. Okay, I'm delusional, but I think I could do it.
Yeah, the degrees away from Trump that some people in our space are is like worryingly small these days. Like not like worryingly in a bad way, but it's like crazy to think. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Taylor Marshall has like interacted with Trump numerous times, and he's just a boomer with a webcam.
Yeah, they say 6 degrees of separation or whatever. I think Catholic influencers are just like 2 degrees of separation from Trump, and that's pretty wild. Because
Catholics in control.
yeah, we're on lock. We got it.
Q is a Catholic. You heard it here first. Brian, Mr. Catholicism, was there anything else that you wanted to mention to my viewers? Any projects that you have going on? Anything to look out for? Feel free, please plug anything you can. You make great stuff. I want people to be able to know where to find you, where to follow you, where to like and subscribe, and give you money for things that you make.
I am on Instagram as Cathoholicism. There's like an extra HO in there. It's Catholic, but alcoholism if you like added it all together. And on Twitter, I am just Pope LaCroix because it's a whole thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm on a few other things, but those are where I'm more active, and I can they'll figure it out.
Most definitely. And once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, compared to you, my size, I'm like a little tadpole, and here's a big old bullfrog coming into my pond and saying what's up. So thank you so much for coming on. This was a really, really great conversation. That, like I said, I've had some convos on pods that it's always been like pulling teeth, and this one was definitely not that. So I really do appreciate you coming on and giving your patronage to a small little channel like me. So thank you once again. Everyone check out his socials at Catholicism and also on Twitter, Pope LaCroix. Until then, to all you listeners of the Puffs with Peter podcast, thank you for tuning in and keep puffing on them Peters. Signing out, another great episode of the TradTards Podcast. Brian, once again, thank you.
All right. Thank you.